Greetings, guys. Back at you with another video. So, tonight I thought I would talk about some of the ways that having too much empathy can be dangerous. Now, for those of you who may not really be familiar with the term empath and what exactly an empath embodies, empaths are beings that have the ability to feel others' happiness, emotions, pain, etc. They're able to put themselves in other people's shoes, circumstances and whatnot. Now, one of the ways that empathy is dangerous is transfer of emotions. So since an empath can, pick up on other people's emotions, they're more susceptible to forcing themselves to feel what others are feeling. Or, if not forcing, just picking up on it and embodying that energy as their own. For example, you could put yourself in situations that don't serve you just because you care for someone or you feel empathy for them. For example, say you have a friend who's always putting themselves in fucked up situations, and you being an empath, you kind of feel what they could be feeling or going through when they get into those situations. So you'll put yourself in a bad environment. For example, if your friend goes to a party and this friend always gets super fucked up to the point where they can't even get home safely, and you've seen them in circumstances like that, and some of the traumatic things or just messed up experiences they've had by putting themselves in those environments. So maybe they ask you hey, go out with me tonight to this party or whatever, and you're like, nah, because maybe the crowd that they're gonna be around you really don't agree with. You don't like the energy. So instead of you saying no, you go ahead anyway, just so that you don't have to make this person feel alone, or you don't have to feel sorrow for them, or you don't feel guilty. And then you get to this party and the exact crowd that you don't really fuck with like that is there, and then some drama happened. So then you done allowed your empathy to put you in a bad situation because you feel bad about your friend's situation, but you don't even need to be there, and neither do they. So it's that's one of the ways empathy can be dangerous. Now, another problem with having too much empathy or being an empath without boundaries is that you don't want to set boundaries in the first place because you feel like those boundaries will hurt someone. Now, one of the problems with empaths is that they feel too much. And I know you're like, well, how can that be bad to feel too much or to relate? Or, well, sometimes it's just some shit you don't need to feel and be relating to. And so if that's one of your problems, as an empath, you have to empower yourself, or as a person who just has a lot of empathy all the time, you have to empower yourself to know when to cut that shit off. You have to have boundaries with empathy. It's you can't feel everything all the time, and you can't relate to everything all the time. And another dangerous thing about that a lot of empaths who find themselves linking with narcissistic, abusive, sociopathic lovers and stuff like that, or family members, is you start to have empathy even for your abusers or toxic family members or friends and lovers. That can keep you in unhealthy relationships or situations or environments, because you'll say to yourself oh, well, I can't leave them because he or she just lost their job, they're going through a hard time, and I feel There's that word again, feel. That empaths and people who possess empathy, lots of empathy, usually say is like, well, I feel that they would be hurt if I left. I feel like if I walked out on them, then I would be just like everybody else. And then there you go, keeping yourself in a space or in a relationship that just doesn't serve you just because of feelings. Feelings can get us fucked up sometimes. That's why we always have to be balancing our emotions and our logic and our feelings with what we know to be true. You know what I mean? Now, another thing about that is like if you have family members who are just unhealthy and just keep up a lot of mess, a lot of generational trauma and stuff, or you live at home with family and they have a certain rule or they have certain expectations of how you're supposed to carry yourself within the family, but you want to do your own thing, you want to branch out. That empathy that you're embodying to pick up on what they would feel if you were to choose a different route or course of action or something will keep you from following your true energy. Like you'll go to like say like you go to like a family cookout or something, and you already know that when you get there, some of your family gonna be, oh well, why you don't have kids yet, or why you ain't this, or why you ain't that, or why you live here, why you move there, why you going to school for that, why you got that type of job, like, and they just badgering you with questions. Maybe you the black sheep of the family, and maybe you always were made to feel what your family was feeling, or you had to like relate all the time so that it would keep the drama out. Now that you've grown and you starting to come into this empathic energy, because empaths are very powerful. Don't like think that being an empath means you have to be walked all over or not be true to your own self. So anyway, so you get to the family reunion, or you get to the cookout, you get to the Sunday dinner, and everybody there is still on that bullshit, you know? But you went because maybe it's one person in the family that you wanted to see, or that felt, no, not even wanted to see, but wanted to see you. And they made you feel guilty, like, oh, you're not gonna come, you know? And then you put your feelings on the back burner and you show up and everybody's badgering you with those questions, or people being cold and distant, and you know, and it's like that's where that boundary has to kick in. Like, look, I love you, maybe you can come to my house for dinner and we can have a one-on-one. You know, you don't always have to like put yourself in situations to please somebody else if you know it's gonna make you uncomfortable. And sometimes empaths just go along with stuff as to not make people feel bad. So that's another thing. It just, you know, it keeps you feeling for the people that aren't healthy for you. Now, empathy allows us to understand why people do the things they do. So that makes it easier for, you know, you to give them the benefit of the doubt, thus giving people the chance to either hurt you, betray you, use you, put you in uncomfortable situations again. Because sometimes empathy makes you give people chance after chance after chance. And then after a while, that shit starts to become codependent. And then it's like, it's like two people, like for example, say you're empathetic, and everybody has the ability to be empathetic or to be empaths. Even narcissists can be empaths. We're going to talk about that on another video. But say you get with somebody who just doesn't have the best intentions, but they possess strong empathy, so they can pick up on your empathy. They can pick up on you empathizing with them. And so then they use your empathy as a tool against you, and then you keep being in these same cycles over and over again. And a lot of people like, yo, I'm an empath, so I just can't. You know, you have to just throw that whole narrative out the door, because you can. And a lot of empaths are afraid of being able to be strong because people have conditioned a lot of you to think that empathic people or being sensitive and all this means you can't have boundaries, you can't be strong, you can't be fierce. And that's a lie. Now, another thing that's dangerous about being an empath is you run the risk of being sad or angry just because of the energy or emotions of the people around you. And what I mean by that is, like, say you have like a roommate or your spouse or your kids or your friends, family, whatever. Say like you're in a great mood, a lot of things are going well for you, you're feeling really upbeat, but they may be in a down space. So you, even though you happy and things are going well for you, you'll do something like ignore your happiness so that you can relate to them. You don't want to feel like you're rubbing your happiness in their face. And that's very codependent too, you know, in a different way, because you're banking on them feeling good with you. They're banking on you feeling what they feel and adjusting to that, you know? So as an empath, you have to have your own climate all the time. You have to know how to say, hey, like, I feel what you're feeling, address that, but you have to stay in your own frequency, because then you'll just be like, a lot of great things could be happening for you, have all these blessings in your life, things are going well, and then it turns into you just being sad and not seeing that, because you want to relate, you want to empathize with everybody around you. So you may have all this good news and all these great feelings and great things going on, but you don't even express it or show gratitude towards it because the people around you aren't happy. The people around you aren't vibrating on that level too. So that's another way empathy can be dangerous, because it just takes you out of like feeling what you want to feel at that time. Now, empaths who don't set up healthy spiritual, physical, or energetic boundaries also run the risk of not having time, like never having the time to feel their own feelings or explore their own thoughts. For example, like I said earlier, you'll just be scared to go after your dreams or goals if you feel like the people around you won't approve. Your empathy will be having you say things like, well, I can't do this, I can't go after that because it will hurt or offend other people. And then you stop your own growth. That's very codependent. Empaths and narcissists and sociopathic people have codependent relationships a lot of the times, because if you aren't an educated empath or you aren't an empowered empath, you don't know how to just like stay in your own frequency. And sociopathic and narcissistic people can pick up on that. And so it becomes codependent because you're always like striving to get this person's approval, and this person knows that, so they use it as a tool against you. And you got to understand that like a lot of empathetic people attract toxic people. Okay, so when they say like you toxic so you attract toxicity, that's not true. Like if you in the dark, aren't you gonna go towards the light? You know what I mean? Or aren't you gonna, if you in an unhealthy space, aren't you gonna try to find something healthy to be around or absorb? And so that's why narcissists are attracted to empaths and sensitive people, because narcissists always want supply, and as an empath, you always want to give supply, because maybe in your life you've experienced loneliness, or you've experienced like people turning their backs on you, or people just not being there for you. And so you start to over nurture, and then that can turn into like empathic rage, you know what I mean, where you like so fed up of giving and feeling everybody's shit that you become numb or something. or you just become apathetic, you know what I mean? And then you don't give a fuck about nothing. Nobody feelings. You don't even want to empathize anymore. And that could be dangerous because it could be people who have genuine intentions and genuinely need that support. And you'll be so fed up from giving and pouring into emptiness and never being nurtured back that your ass will start just being mean and spiteful to people because you are afraid of them being like the other people that took. And so that's why I always be like empowering you guys to not just be over givers, not being overly nurturing. And right now, yo, we like in a time where I feel like a lot of empathic people, their antennae is like up, right? So they're just feeling everything, like the weight of the world, the trauma, the frustration, everything. Like you can't even go to the grocery store without feeling something from the cashier or the person in front of you or the person you pass in the fruit aisle, you know what I mean? So it's like right now it's really important for empaths to learn how to set up boundaries and stop like saying that they can't. Like let go of the fear of not being loved and accepted if you're not always relating, always, you know, like for example, that friend that may always call you with some drama. You could be in a great mood, they call you with some drama. It ain't even your drama. It has no effect on your life at all. But just for the sake of relating or making this person not feel lonely or whatever, you find something to complain about while you're on the phone with this person or while you're around these people so that you can all relate and feel the same, you know? That shit just becomes unhealthy, and then you just never true to what you really got going on. And like say you're not sad and you're not overly joyed, you just chilling. And some people come around you and they just like, why you so quiet? Why you this? Why you that? And then so you start acting out just to appease them, and then you drained by the time they leave, or you drained by the time you hang up with somebody. It's like you don't have to empathize with everything, and not empathizing with everything doesn't even make you a bad person. You can always express sympathy, you know, for people without taking on whatever it is they're carrying. And as you on this journey right now, you're learning how to set up boundaries without feeling guilty. That's one of the most important things that empaths need to learn is not feeling guilty for those boundaries, not feeling guilty for absorbing. You have to take on the ability to observe and not absorb so that you can be in a room full of chaos and still have your inner peace, still be balanced. So you have to always bring yourself back to your core, back to your breath. That's your spirit. Bring yourself back to that so you can see like, why is this affecting me? This isn't mine to carry. Express empathy or sympathy in a very healthy manner, and then get back to feeling you. And so yeah, I just thought that was really important because I know, you know, I hear a lot and I get a lot of feedback about people being empaths, and it's hard to turn that off. It's hard to not feel what other people are feeling. But you have to make the conscious effort of doing that so you don't exhaust yourself, you know. Your energy is just like all you have, you know. That's your life force. And so you can't just be going around trying to feel everything for everybody, because then you'll be so depleted you won't be able to feel anything for you. And so that's just something I wanted to say. I hope this message helps anybody who has been kind of, you know, struggling with setting up those healthy boundaries and stay in your own frequency. All right, guys. Sending you love, peace.